Who were the junkers? Soldiers, large landowners, aristocracy, weavers.
Large landowners.
CG. Zulverin started in 1834 in Prussia, refers to a dash. Farmers Union, Custom Unions, Trade Union, Labor Union.
Custom.
Who among the following hosted the Vienna Congress in 1815? Who?
Vienna Congress.
Option 1. Chancellor Duke Metternich. Which treaty recognized Greece as an independent nation?
Treaty of
Constantinople, 1832. Identify the correct statement with regard to the Zollverein from the following options. It was a measuring unit of cloth in Germany. It was a class of traders in Germany. It was a customs union formed in 1834. It was the Congress hosted by the Austrian Chancellor Duke Metternich in 1815.
Customs union formed in
1834. Guru come. Same कौन अच्छे तो का?
History. The rise of nationalism in India.
ऐसा तो गौरव in India, na Europe.
So India.
Nationalism in India.
So geography में क्या है?
Next, why was Alluri Sitaram Raju well known? He led the militant movement of tribal peasants in Andhra Pradesh. He led a peasant movement in Awadh. He led a satyagraha movement in Bardoli.
Led a peasant movement in Awadh.
He led. Why was Alluri Sitaram Raju well known? He led the militant movement of tribal peasants in Andhra Pradesh. He led a peasant movement in Awadh. He led a satyagraha movement in Bardoli. He led the militant movement in tribal in Andhra Pradesh. Why did General Dyer open fire on peaceful crowd in Jallianwala Bagh? Mark the most important factor: to punish the Indians, to take revenge for breaking martial laws, to create a feeling of terror and awe in the mind of Indians.
Feeling terror.
Very good. What kind of a movement was launched by the tribal peasants of Gudem Hills in Andhra Pradesh? Satyagraha movement, militant guerrilla movement, non-violent movement, militant guerrilla movement. Good. Association is revolution is the inalienable right of mankind. Reason is many nationalists thought that the struggle against the British could not be won through non-violence.
True.
Correct explanation of A. Sanu, why was the Simon Commission sent to India?
Because of
To look into the Indian constitutional matter and suggest reform, to choose to settle dispute between the government and Congress leaders, to look into the Indian constitutional matter and suggest reform. Sanu. Next, assertion is when the civil disobedience movement started, there was thus an atmosphere of suspicion and distrust between communities. Accession again, when the civil disobedience movement started, there was thus an atmosphere of auspicious and distrust between communities. Reason is, many Muslim leaders and intellectuals feared that culture and identity of minorities would be submerged under the domination of a Hindu majority. What are the main motive of the salt march?
To decrease the salt, to break the salt.
To increase the national center.
The British government acquired monopoly rights over salt production and imposed salt tax. Indians were prohibited from collecting or selling salt. Thus, the main motive of the salt march was to break the salt law. How was the social and political situation of India affected by the First World War?
For recruitment, price will be double between
Imposed taxes.
1930 to
Introduction of
1918.
income taxes and
Anger rose in
rural
farmers.
areas.
Influenza epidemic. This was accompanied by an influenza epidemic. 12 to 13 million people perished as a result of famine and in the epidemics. Through the war years, prices increased, doubling between 1930 and 1980, leading to extreme hardship for the common people survival. Explain 4 points about Gandhi's idea of satyagraha, or explain the idea of satyagraha according to Gandhi. Gaurav, tell.
Sir, Gandhiji convinced people to take
Satyagraha stressed on the power of truth and the need to search for truth.
In a non-violent way.
It advocated that for the struggle against injustice and right cause, the use of physical force was not necessary to fight the oppressor. Next, one can win the oppressor even by the appealing to the conscience. Oppressor should be made to see the truth. According to Gandhi, Satyagraha is the most effective method of protest. He believed that Satyagraha could unite all Indians. What was Rawla's Act? How did the Indians show their disapproval towards this act?
The other time is the act in which people are
People without any reason, people
without any trial sent to jail
for 2 years.
For
2 years.
how did the Indians show their disapproval towards this act?
By
Mahatma Gandhi decided to launch a non-violent civil disobedience movement against this law. Rallies were organized and various workers went on strike in railway workshop. A crowd gathered in the Jallianwala Bagh to protest against the oppressive policies of the colonial government.
general there.
Describe in brief the reaction of the people immediately after Jallianwala Bagh incident.
Anger rose. Rabindranath Tagore launched a
No.
After Jallianwala incident, Gandhiji launched a civil
Crowds took to the streets in many North Indian towns. Strikes, clashes with the police, and attacks on government buildings were witnessed extensively. The British used brutal repression, seeking to humiliate and terrorize people. People were flogged and villages were bombed. This violence forced Gandhi to call off the movement. Why and by whom was the Khilafat movement launched?
by Shaukat
By
Ali
Shaukat
and
Ali, Muhammad Ali.
Ali brothers.
Ali brothers. Well, why Khilafat movement launched?
To protect the power of Ottoman
to protect the holy place of Muslims.
When the First World War ended, there were rumors that a harsh peace treaty was going to be imposed on the Ottoman Emperor. There was a fear that the power of the spiritual head of the Islamic world, Khalifa, would be curtailed. To defend the Khalifa's temporal powers, a Khilafat committee was formed in Bombay in March 1919. Ali brothers Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali started the Khalifa movement to defend the powers of Khalifa. Why did the non-cooperation movement gradually slow down in towns and cities?
Because of the Chori Chora incident.
3 marks. Why did the non-cooperation movement gradually slow down in towns and cities? Of the following reasons, khadi clothes were very costly and beyond the reach of the poor. In the course of time, people again took to machine-made cheap cloth. Boycott of daily use products was also not possible because of lack of Swadeshi industries. Indians had to roll back. Similarly, boycott of foreign institutions or foreign materials too could not continue for long. There were no alternative institutions to fill the gap, so teachers and students had to resume. So teachers and students had to resume to government schools. Lawyers too reported back in the government courts. ଯେତେ ଗୁଡ଼ା ଡେଲି ୟୁଜ୍ ଜିନିଷ ବା ଖଦି କ୍ଲଥେସ୍ ବହୁତ ଅଧିକ ରେଟ୍ ଥିଲା, ଯୋଉଟାକି ପୁଅର ମାନଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ ଆଫୋର୍ଡେବଲ୍ ନଥିଲା. ସେ ଚିପ୍ ରେଟ୍ ଯୋଉଟା ମେସିନ୍ ବାଇ ବ୍ରିଟିଶର ଚିପ୍ ରେଟ୍ରେ ସେ କ୍ଲଥେସ୍ କିଣିଲେ. ଆଉ ବେଶୀ ସମୟ ପାଇଁ ଯୋଉଟା ଡେଲି ୟୁଜ୍ ପ୍ରଡକ୍ଟ also not possible because of lack of Swadeshi industries. There were no Indian industries, so they depended only the Britisher products. Why did some leaders of the Congress oppose the idea of non-cooperation movement? Why? Why did some leaders of the Congress oppose the idea of a non-cooperation movement? They did not want to boycott the council election of November 1920. They thought that the movement would become violent. They wanted to oppose the government policies by participating in legislative council. ସେମାନେ movement would become violent. ସେମାନେ ଭାବିଲେ ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ଆନ୍ଦୋଳନ ଅଧିକ ହିଂସ୍ର ହେଇଯିବ, ଭାଓଲେଣ୍ଟ ହେଇଯିବ, ସେଇଥିପାଇଁ ସେମାନେ ଆଉ ଅପୋଜ କଲେ, ତାକୁ ସପୋର୍ଟ କଲେନି କିଛି ଲିଡର୍ସ ଅଫ୍ କଂଗ୍ରେସର. ଆଉ କହିଲେ they wanted to oppose the government policy by participating in legislative council. ସେମାନେ ଯୋଉ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟର ପଲିସିକୁ ଅପୋଜ କରିବା ପାଇଁ legislative councilରେ ମଧ୍ୟ ସେମାନେ ପାର୍ଟିସିପେଟ୍ କଲେ. Explain the role of women in the civil disobedience movement with examples. There was large-scale participation of women in the civil disobedience movement. During the Salt March, thousands of women came out of their homes to listen to Gandhiji. They took active part in protest marches, produced salt, picketed foreign cloth and liquor shop. Many of them even went to jail. In urban and rural areas, women from rich and upper castes were more closely associated with the movement. These were the contribution of women in civil disobedience movement. How was the movement against the landlords and talukdars led by Baba Ramchandra Gaurav? Non-cooperation movement Baba Ramchandra nathila. Oh, what was the Simon Commission? Simon, go back. What was the Simon Commission? Why was it opposed?
peoples come from London to investigate the Jallianwala incident.
A statutory commission under Sir John Simon was constituted by the Tory government in Britain to look into the functioning of the constitutional system in India and suggest changes, but it was opposed by the Indians on the following reasons. What are the reasons? What were the reasons? All the members of the commission were Englishmen. It did not provide any hope of Swaraj to Indians. Why was the countryside in turmoil by 1930? Distress in countryside, decreased production in agriculture, increased production in agriculture, worldwide economic depression.
Decrease in production.
Why was the countryside in turmoil by 1930? 1930. Increased production in agriculture or distress in countryside or decreased production in agriculture, worldwide economic depression.
Decrease production.
Decreased? Who among the following two leaders led the Khilafat movement? Who were the Sanatanis? Saints, Dalit, high caste Hindu, labor. Which leader of the Congress party wanted to participate in election to the provincial council? Jawaharlal Nehru, Subhash Bose, C.R. Das, Chittaranjan Das and Motilal Nehru, Bal Gangadhar Tilak and Bipin Chandra Pal, Thakur Das and G.D. Birla. No. C.R. Das, Motilal Nehru. Tu jawab no?